let's start, Coach, with the players you have whose names will be called on Thursday night. Let's start with Minkah Fitzpatrick. We had him in here in our studio about a week or so ago and looked at some film. I've heard you say you think he's as good a player as you've had. Tell us about Minkah Fitzpatrick.
Well, I think Minkah's a sort of a rare commodity in the fact that he's such a gifted athlete, but he's got such a great personality, and he's such a competitive guy that's a pleasure to coach in everything that he does. I mean, he's really a overachiever for a guy that's a fantastic athlete, and that's a rare combination, I think, in this day and age. And he has high goals and aspirations for what he wants to do, and I think he meets all the critical factors for what you look for in a DB. I mean, he's a good tackler. He's got great ball skills. He can play man-to-man. So I think he's going to be a great player for someone.
We expect him to go in the first round, or quite high in the first round, and then we may also hear Calvin Ridley's name, the wide receiver. It wasn't a high-flying offense he ran this year, but there were some games that he was just sensational. How do you see, and you've had great receivers there, obviously, with Julio Jones and Amari Cooper. How do you foresee Calvin Ridley making the jump to the next level?
I really think Calvin Ridley's, maybe some people don't remember Drew Hill that we had in the Houston Oilers way back when I coached there. Great coming out of a break, can really drop his weight and separate out of a break. I know some people, look at his size and say, well, we like bigger guys and all that. But, this guy's really a hard-working, very dependable receiver, great hands. It's hard to cover in man-to-man, and he'll make critical catches in critical situations for you in the game. And I think his speed and quickness is pretty unique. So I think he's going to be an outstanding player as well.
Coach, when we were at LSU, I remember, I believe it was your first year, you had Josh Booty and Rohan Davey, and we were in the bowl game, and you made a decision that you were going to play Rohan after Josh had started the whole year. We ended up winning that game, and that was a much easier circumstance to make that call. What prompted you to make the call to make the quarterback change after Jalen had done so much for the team? You had gotten you guys to that point. How did you know that putting Tua in the game would make the difference and allow and give you guys a chance to win?
Well, I think it's amazing that you bring the Georgia Tech Peach Bowl, I think it was.
Yes, it was, Coach.
We were at LSU because it was a really similar situation. Josh was struggling in the first half. They were putting a lot of pressure on him. It took him out of his rhythm. We needed a spark. We were behind 14-0 this year. We were behind 13-0. We kind of knew we had to throw the ball against Georgia to be able to have a chance to win. They had a really good front seven. They play a 3-4 defense, which is really kind of hard to run against sometimes, especially with the spread type stuff. So, and I had it in my mind that if we struggled, even in the Clemson game, that Tua had been practicing well enough and playing well enough that he would be an option to give us a spark if we needed it. And it was a really similar situation. I felt the same way about Rohan back at LSU, and don't think I didn't think about that circumstance before I did this at halftime.
Right.
And it did work. We ended up winning 28-14 in that game, and it worked in this game. But Tua did a really good job, and I think it helped utilize some of the skill guys. I know you made mention earlier of Calvin Ridley not being that productive. Really wasn't his fault. It was a type of offense that we ran, probably that didn't allow him to do all the things that he could do, featuring other players that we had, and that's not really totally fair to him.
Yeah, no, I think Calvin Ridley is a star. I believe you see a guy who can decelerate and then accelerate into his cuts and breaks the way he does. I got to see you guys live against Mississippi State. I think he's amazing. I think he's underrated as far as this draft goes, Coach. The one difference between the Rohan change and now the Tua change was that Josh left the next year. We all knew coming into the next season that Rohan Davey was going to be our starter. What has it been like trying to handle that situation now as you move into the next phase, into next year, and winning the next championship, as you always do right away? How are you handling the quarterbacks, and how do you see the future playing itself out?
Well, I have great respect and trust for both guys. I mean, we'd have never, been where we got to in the national championship game in the playoffs if it wasn't for Jalen and the great job that he did. to get us there. And Tua gave us a spark and played, outstanding in the second half to be able to come back and win the championship. So I think being fair and honest with both guys moving forward, giving them an opportunity to compete, no different than you would at any other position, be it right guard or right corner. So, and I know that that's a little more difficult to do because of all the outside noise that's always going to surround the quarterback position. But I've encouraged both guys to focus on what they can control, which is their performance, and not worry about all that stuff. And we'll see who the best quarterback is and who gives us the best chance to win in the fall. And if both guys can contribute, that's a possibility too.
Yes, sir.
I did see some comments attributed to Jalen's father that people made a very big deal about. Is it your expectation that even if he isn't your starting quarterback, he will still be on Alabama next year?
Well, I don't know. I don't know that I'm in a position to make that, sort of decision. I think that I want what's best for our players. I talked to Jalen's dad the day before, and he made no indication of, some of the things that were, said in this article. So, I think that both players need to focus on the things that they can control, which is, their performance, and try to perform well. And whatever's best for their future and their career is what we'll support. And, hopefully that'll be at Alabama.
Well, Coach, again, we wish you the best of luck tomorrow night. I know a lot of your players will hear their names called for the NFL draft, and we really appreciate you doing this. Thanks so much for taking the time, and I'm sure we'll talk again soon. Take care.
Thanks, Coach. I'm about to sneak down to Tuscaloosa and come check you out.
All right, Ryan. Good talking to you, buddy.
Good talking to you, Coach.
Talk to you later. Yeah.